to One Cardinal, One Cup, and One Beer.
Root beer.
Diet Pepsi beer.
Oh, very good. See, you're a better person than I am, Vince.
I love root beer. The best thing about root beer is even sugar-free root beer tastes good.
You know, it does. That's true.
Yeah. Diet sodas, like colas and everything else, I had to get used when I became a diabetic. I had to get used to the taste. Now, if I take a drink of like regular cola, I can't handle it. But root beer, I've always loved root beer because the diet root beer is just as good as the. I mean, why did they even put sugar in it? It's so good. I don't know.
Oh man, it is fantastic.
So people, I want you to like us on Facebook. And if you don't, I'm going to send my man, my muscle, JJ, who's right next to me, and he's going to come over there and he's going to shave your eyebrows off. So like us on Facebook. You can contact us through one card, one cup, one beer at gmail.com. And you can support us through Patreon. You just go to Patreon and you put in the search engine there, One Cardinal, One Cup, and One Beer, and we'll pop up, and you can support us from anywhere from $3 to $5 to $10 for our efforts. And it's greatly appreciated.
Yes, sir.
So if you want to be a contestant in one of our trivia contests, if you would like to be a guest on one of our panels, or if you just have an interesting baseball anecdote or an expertise in baseball that you think, hey, I think I would make a pretty good interview, let us interview you. That would be really cool.
Getting to know you, getting to know all about you.
Yeah, you can let us know just by emailing us at onecard1cup1beer@gmail.com. You can send us a DM. You can put a comment either on the YouTube channel or on Spotify where we do the podcast only. There's so many ways to get a hold of us. I mean, you can just come to my house. I
drive by
the door, but you can come by. JJ's a lot friendlier than me. He'll let you all in. So
I'll make you a sandwich.
There you go. Well, maybe I'll come over. So
come on over.
Oh, JJ, how you doing?
Really good. I want to wish everybody a happy 50th anniversary of Hank Aaron's historical home run. It's actually 50 days in one day because it was actually yesterday. I'm wearing my old-timey Atlanta Braves batting helmet, which is very small for me, and it makes me look my face look freakishly big. And I've got my Hank Aaron jersey there in the background, right there. So anyway, big historical moment. A lot of celebrations down in Atlanta. They had a lot of his teammates. Dusty Baker was there. Tom House. Ralph Garr. I saw Ralph Garr. Really cool. That's one of the most historical moments in baseball history, and by one of the greats. And I have my 1965 Hank Aaron card right there. So pretty cool. Hammer and Hank. So the old Atlanta Braves mascot right there.
In my book, he's the home run king. He did it.
Me too.
He did it the way it should have been done. And I did see someone on Facebook ask, okay, Aaron played from 55 through 75, yet he's credited with 24 All-Star games. How does that add up? For those of you who don't know this, there was a time period, I think in the early 60s, for about 3, 4, or 5 years, somewhere around there, where they played 2 All-Star games because they were raising money for retired players, because at that time there was no pension program in Major League Baseball. So those doubled up years, that's how Stan Musial has 24 All-Star appearances, and Willie Mays has like more All-Star appearances than he was playing. But that's the answer to that. So just to shed a little light.
74 is the first year I watched baseball, and it was at the beginning of the year. And I mean, they treated it, they broke in on the news and everything, but I didn't have the full respect of what was happening. I thought, oh, something like this must happen every week or every month. But this was a lifelong, first of all, his health. He had to have great health to be able to accomplish this. Got to put up big numbers every year. He was one of the top players. And if you really want to get to know Hank Aaron, total bases, he's like Nolan Ryan to everybody else when it comes to total bases. I know Albert Pujols is 2 and Stan's 3, but he's way out, like maybe even 700 total bases ahead of everybody else. And what a guy, what a class act. Um, and I've seen that video so many times when it happened, but I remember when it happened, but I just didn't realize what a big accomplishment it was at the time.
One of my favorite stories I ever heard Aaron talk about is he was batting in the World Series when they were playing the Yankees. I don't quite remember the year, I think late 50s sometime. And he's up to bat, and Yogi Berra, who was notorious for needling batters, he told Aaron, he said, "You're supposed to hold the bat where you can read the label," and Aaron just said, "I came here to hit, not to read."
Boom, mic drop. There you go. Take that, Yogi.
Oh, but anyway, yeah, what a great accomplishment! And I did hear an old interview, a few years old before he passed away. Obviously, before he passed away. Gee, that was the dumbest thing I
Yeah,
think of.
it wouldn't be much of an interview.
Yeah, but anyway, he was saying that the two young men who ran up to him, you know, yeah, he didn't know what they were going to do. Nobody knew what
Right.
they were going to do. One of them still is a doctor in Atlanta now, and the other one I think has passed away. He said, but when he got to home plate, there was a guy there with binoculars, and in the binoculars he had hidden a a gun of some kind, and those two guys almost got shot. So,
Oh, I see. I
but
see.
when Aaron crossed home plate, and he knew this guy, was there, so on and so forth, and the guy said something to the effect like, "Boy, that was a little hairy." And he said, "It's over with now. I've set the record. This is all over with." And you're not. He was getting death threats, a lot of death threats. Once he breaks the record, no one's going to kill him now. If they were going to kill him, it was going to be before. It broke the babe's record. But yeah, just
I heard an interview yesterday with his wife, and she said that she didn't like the two players running out, that it took away from his spotlight. Like they were sort of now it was sort of like about them as well. Um, I know I wasn't I was so little then. I don't really know the gravitas of the situation, but I think more people, more baseball fans, more Americans were just happy to see this happen. It was such a it didn't take away from Babe Ruth at all. Babe Ruth's one of the greatest players ever. Now Hank Aaron is as well. And I just remember I've seen that video so much. Dusty Baker, who we all know, was on deck. Darrell Evans is on second base. The ball goes over the fence, and Tom House catches the ball, runs out, and the Dodger that's standing on the fence is Bill Buckner, which I did not know. And Bill Buckner said, "Hey, Tom, give me the ball. I'll run it back to him." And he said, "No, I'm going to do this." And then later on, they would see each other and goes, "You would have just dropped it like you did in the World Series." That's what Tom House said to Bill Buckner. Tom House, what a great guy. He ran the ball back and he said, "I just wanted to get handed to Hank." And evidently at that time, that ball was worth about $5,000. Well, we know like the McGuire ball and all these things that have happened, the Pujols 700th home run ball. And there's a lot of people who would pay probably who have the means to pay $1 million. But Tom just wanted to give him that ball. And fans were so taken by his, "I just want to get the ball to him." He said for months he would get letters every day with money in it, sometimes two, five. And he said the fans gave him about $4,000 for just his kindness. So that's pretty cool. And he said back that year playing baseball, he made $12,500 in the big leagues playing ball in 1974. So
wow.
yeah,
Times have changed a bit.
yes they have. Yes they have.
Well, in other news, I let me preface this by saying I don't have anything against Tony Clark. I liked him as a player. He played for
Yeah.
Detroit. He played for Boston. Had some decent years. He's been the player union rep for ever now. Um, and one thing that happened with the last CBA is previous to that, one of the major issues was this service time thing that you, you could call a player up 2 weeks after the season starts, and it, we all know the Chris Bryant story, and this year
Oh,
we got Jackson Holiday, so on and so forth. Tony Clark did not, he didn't get that around. It seems like it would be something pretty simple to negotiate out of there.
I thought it was slam
But
dunk.
he didn't.
I know.
Okay. So that kind of had me scratching my head. This really has me scratching my head. Tony Clark has come out and he has blamed, since Spencer Strider now has an arm injury, he has blamed that on the pitch clock. Okay. You don't have to be anything but a casual baseball fan to know there is absolutely no evidence of this yet. This is something that they are in the process of studying, and he accused Major League Baseball of not studying it. They're saying, we are too studying it. We don't have to tell you everything we're doing. Major League Baseball has a vested interest in keeping their top players on the field.
Yes,
That's the commodities that bring in this. They are not wanting Spencer Strider to go on the disabled list, okay? But it happened. But if Tony Clark comes out and he blames it on the pitch clock, like I said, no evidence of this. And I, there's been study after study after study after study for the past 50, 60 years on baseball injuries. And the number one thing that leads to injuries is bad mechanics. That's what they have found out through every study. Now, I know I'm talking to the baseball nerds here, but excuse me if you know all this. Throwing a baseball is not a natural motion. We don't walk around with our arms swinging up. That's not how our arms are. Our arms swing down. That's our natural motion. Throwing underhanded, fast pitch softball, that's more of a natural motion. This is not a natural motion. So, first of all, you've got pitchers doing something that the human body wasn't meant to do to that level. Sure, in evolution, back in the times when we were in the dregs, yes, we had to learn how to throw spears to get our mammoth or whatever. You can do this some, but when you do this 150 times a week, 25 weeks out of the year for so many years, from the time you're, I don't know, start to pitch until you retire, you put strain on the arm. Muscles can be repaired, and that's how you get muscular. The muscle breaks down and then repairs itself stronger. Tendons do not get stronger. You have what you have, and when it goes, it goes. So we know that it's an unnatural motion, and bad mechanics is the number one reason that people get arm injuries. When we were growing up in the 70s and 80s, do you remember that the torn rotator cuff was like the kiss of death when you were a pitcher?
You were done.
Rotator cuff, you were done. You don't hear about too many rotator cuffs anymore, but you see pitchers who are in high school who have to get Tommy John surgery already because, like I said, the tendon is what it is. It's not going to get any stronger. It's just going to continue to deteriorate the more you do. There's some people who are freaks that can pitch on the same tendon for 25 years and throw hard. Nolan Ryan, for example. And, people say, well, I've heard people accuse Ryan of being on steroids, which I don't know if he was on steroids, but I know this steroid does not help the tendons and ligaments. They don't, because you can't strengthen them. So, the reason that torn rotator cuff has been replaced by tendon problems is because when we were growing up, you weren't max efforting. That was something that the closer did in the ninth inning. That wasn't something that the starting pitcher did. You paced yourself. Maybe there were more pitchers when we were growing up who could throw 95 and above than we ever knew of, but they didn't because they were pacing themselves, because the philosophy was pace yourself, learn how to get outs with ground balls, pop ups, stuff like that. save your arm. When I was a kid, I read Juan Marichal's book, and Juan Marichal, who could strike out anybody, who regularly pitched 200 plus innings every season. I think he won like 250 games. Threw a screwball, which is probably the
Worst thing on your arm.
yeah, the worst thing on your arm. Um, but Juan Marichal, I remember reading in his book saying, why would I want to try to throw three pitches by a guy and strike him out when I can throw one pitch and get him to ground out? So to just by definition, to try to strike someone out versus trying to get someone to pop out or ground out, you have to pitch a minimum of 3-to-1 ratio. To three more, it takes three pitches to strike someone out, takes one pitch to get them to ground out. So you're throwing a lot more pitches because you're trying to strike out, because contact is, oh, that's terrible. We can't have anybody have contact anymore. So, but this philosophy of max effort with your starters, the emphasis on spin rate, get that spin rate as high as you can. Even fastballs, they want a lot of spin rate on the fastballs, so it will ride or it will fade or whatever you're trying to get your fastball to do. But this really kind of smacks of ignorance on the players' part, who are represented by Tony Clark, to say that the pitch clock is the problem. Mr. Clark, people have been getting these Tommy John surgeries for decades now. And you get the proliferation of absolutely more than ever before, because we have pitchers who have to throw max effort because that's a philosophy. If the players want to get serious about extending their careers and staying healthy so they can make more money, they need to say, you know what? I am not going to go out there and try to strike everybody out. It's just logic. If that's the game you want, if that's the game the players want, if that's the game that ownership wants, this is just a casualty of the war that you're playing. You're going to have pitching injuries like you've never had before. Don't blame the pitch clock. I love the pitch clock. I cannot stand dilly-dallying. And we know since they've implemented the pitch clock and the pace of the game has went faster, fan interest has increased. And that's what we ultimately need, because without the fans, there's no sport. There's no billion-dollar paychecks. So if your problem is pitchers are getting injured, the only way you're going to rectify that is to stop this max effort thing, stop this spin rate craze, and go back to trying to get hitters out with one or two pitches instead of trying to strike everybody out. JJ, your thoughts?
That was beautifully said. You know,
I've
even
been
in
chomping at the bit.
you have been fired up about this. I've heard a lot of people say things about it. It seems like the sexiest thing in baseball when you see a young kid wanting to try to make it up to, Division I, or the college kids to make it to the pros. It's the fastball. It's who smacks that glove the fastest. What was it on the radar? I mean, the scouts are looking at it, the teams are looking at it, but we know, as all of us baseball nerds know, just because you throw the hardest don't make you the best pitcher. Um, uh, with all this and the home run, it seems like the power to like guys like a Rise who can put the bat on the ball and hit you 350. It's the thing of the past. I think that's what I like. Guys, the Cardinals right now are just striking out at an alarming rate. But to get back to this subject here, it does seem like we have a lot of injuries this year. And that could be a byproduct of a lot of things, a lot of position players as well. But some of the best pitchers in baseball, I know you guys have Justin Steele out. We're just getting Sonny Gray back, but that was a hamstring thing. And with all these players getting bigger and stronger, and science the way it is, it look at nutrition and weightlifting. I heard Tom House, who I really respect, and I've mentioned him once before. He was a throwing coach. He's worked with NFL quarterbacks and the pitchers, and he thinks a lot of this is several things. One could be the weight room, where guys before would just stretch and get a nice workout and do more cardio. They're really hitting the weights now, and their body's not having time to recover. That could be some of it as well. I remember it wasn't long before I started watching baseball, there was 4-man rotations or just a 5-man rotation, and the reliever kind of came along some people give Tony La Russa a lot of credit for that. Andy Messersmith, maybe mid 70s was when that kind of came into effect. Usually, a reliever, our closer, was a guy who was an old starter that still kind of. I think of Vinegar Ben Mizell was a guy who'd been around forever, and they just put him in the bullpen, and he would mop up the games at the end. It could be many things, but I think it would behoove everybody if they put some sort of group on this, do some research, and see what's going on. But I'm with you, Vince. The Cardinals have been, a lot of the fans have said, oh, the Cardinals, they don't go after the Roger Clemenses of the world. One, we can't afford them, but we always get people who can throw strikes. Hopefully they throw strikes and just attack the strike zone and get contact and get through the inning because, and it doesn't seem like we have as many injuries and those guys seem to last longer. One of my favorite pitchers is Greg Maddux. Now, Greg Maddux, he could throw a great fastball, but he wasn't one of the, you know, Chapmans or the Chris Sales of the world, those guys, but he just knew how to pitch. And that's a lost art, it seems like, going inside, outside, up, down, changing speeds. Maddox would hit that corner and just every inning, if he got a strike, he'd move it over a little bit. It was a pleasure watching that guy in action. But these kids are bigger, stronger, faster, and I think they're just enticed like by the numbers, and there might be part of the paycheck. Hey, you get so many strikeouts because that is a great weapon to have when you got first and third, nobody out, and get that strikeout, and then maybe get a double play and get out of the inning. But Vince, I'm with you with all this research and all this we have going on. I don't know how these guys are getting hurt so much, and I believe it's got to be the max effort, just like you said. Maybe developing some off-speed stuff, better off because it seems like the weaker pitchers, when they get behind in the count, the batters know here comes the fastball, and they're setting on them fastballs and just hitting a lot of home runs that way. I don't know if I made any good points and all that, but I'm just amazed at all the injuries right now, Vince. I can't believe it with all the science. And of course, the teams want to keep their guys healthy, but maybe some of that's the agents, talking to here. Hey, you need to if you can get 200 strikeouts this year, you can get this big paycheck. So maybe that's part of it too.
Yeah. Pitchers who pitch to contact, um, they're a dying breed. We have Hendricks who pitches to contact. We have Wicks who pitches to contact. Um, Steele gets a lot of strikeouts, but he doesn't throw hard. His fastball sits at about 92, but
he's deceptive. He's real deceptive, I think.
He is hitters just do not catch the ball coming out of his hand. That's the magic of him. And we don't have that pitcher. We haven't had that pitcher since Arrieta, who had, just incredibly nasty stuff and strike everybody out.
Kerry Wood too. That guy in his young days, I don't know how they hit the guy. His ball moved and rose and everything. But again, his heyday wasn't very long because I think he just threw so hard.
Yeah. It's just a simple human anatomy that your tendons in your elbow, they don't get stronger, they get weaker with life.
Sandy Koufax had to retire earlier. I mean,
yeah.
He had a lot of years. I thought he still could have pitched, but I think his body gave him all he could handle, and that was it. He retired early.
And the reason we don't have more pitchers who throw more the submarine style, which is a more natural motion, is because it's hard to get the velocity up when you throw that submarine style. We have Jose Cuas on our team, who I'm going to rag on in probably about a half an hour, but he comes pretty much, from down at the side. And he can get it up to, low 90s, but those kind of pitchers, they're more ground ball pitchers. And you think of the classic submarine pitchers like Kent Tekulve and Dan Quisenberry, the old Corey Bradford, not the guy that's around now, the guy who used to pitch for the A's in the 90s. Those guys didn't throw hard, but they could get their ground balls, and they were rubber arms. Quisenberry and Tekulve in particular pitched all the time, and and if for those of you who have never seen Kent Tekulve, go on YouTube and look at this guy. He is two-dimensional. You want to know what he reminds me of?
Who's
That
that?
scene in Who Framed Roger Rabbit when the steamroller runs over Christopher Lloyd and he's two-dimensional. That's what Ken Jacoby looks like. It's amazing because when I've seen him in later years, he's actually filled out, but
Oh,
he was a string bean. Um,
yes.
but man, he was pitching all the time for those Pittsburgh teams because he threw submarine and
Oh, yeah. He was money.
and palm balls and stuff like that he could just do because he's not throwing hard, and this is a more natural motion. And then I even looked up because in my memory, I thought I haven't seen a whole lot of video of Walter Johnson,
Oh,
but I
he's
found some.
whipped.
He was sidearm,
Yes.
and which was probably something that he was the first big time strikeout pitcher. But throwing sidearm is more of a natural motion than throwing completely overhand. So that was probably one of the keys to his longevity. But I'm just saying, if I'm a player and Tony Clark is representing me and he loses the pivotal thing that we've been fighting for that was all over the news a few years ago, the service time. And now he comes out and he says something like this because obviously I know that the pitchers don't like the pitch clock. They want to take their time. They want to take their time. But and I'm careful to say this because I know some people have a different opinion. When it boils right down to it, this is a game for the fans. And if it's not good for the fans to watch a pitcher go out there and wait 28, 30 seconds in between every pitch and drag out the game, uh, you know, you got to do something to speed it up. And it's been a good for the game. I just thought it was very irresponsible for him to come out and say that.
My wife is not a diehard fan like me and you, Vince. She watches it because I love it, and she always says a few things. But one thing she hated was the pace of the game, especially after the starters left. And Tony La Russa at the time would just bring righty, lefty, righty, lefty. And here they'd come out, they'd warm up, pitch to one or two guys, and then they'd bring another pitcher in. And a lot of that's is to speed the game up. A lot of these batters would be adjusted. I tell you what, I don't know, is Velcro not working anymore? Everybody's got to step out, do their Velcro gloves, get back in there. It took forever. And now I like that they have to be set and ready with 8 seconds to go. And that part of the game I absolutely love. You're there, you can mess around in the dugout. When you're up to the plate, get ready and let's go. And I like that.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
All right. That rant's over.
Woo!
I was very fortunate. I think it was Thursday. I was off, and there was a game I wanted to see. I wanted to see the Royals and the Orioles because
Ooh.
Corbin Burns was pitching against Cole Reagans. And if you haven't
Yes.
seen Cole Reagans pitch yet, the
He,
guy, this is the second time I've seen him, and the guy is great.
I've just seen highlights, but I've heard a lot of people talk about him.
Oh, that now Baltimore, even though Corbin Burns didn't have it, Kansas City hit him hard, and I think they got him out of there like second inning. I mean, it was bad for him.
Wow.
But Reagans was on, but then when they took him out, the bullpen blew it. Baltimore ended up winning. But by golly, that was fun to see. It wasn't fun to see Burns get hit that hard, but it was fun to see Cole Reagans go out there and really shut down a great lineup. Cole Reagans would be on the Rangers right now in that starting staff, but the Rangers last year traded him for Aroldis Chapman. That's
Great move.
how Kansas City got him. So
And great move for the Royals picked up Chapman just in case if he found it again, they could make a move. And they do that quite a bit, them and
yeah,
Oakland and the teams like that. Brilliant move by the Royals. And I like to see that they're on the upswing. And that Bobby Witt Jr. looks like every year he's just getting
oh my
better and better and
gosh,
better. Yes, good for the Royals.
so fast, such a and such a great guy. Did you see that video? There's a video. Um, there's a little boy in the stands that had a Witt Jr. I don't know, good 4 or 5, and he went. He signed a baseball for him and asked him, want to get a picture,
Oh,
and yeah, that
that's
was
what it's all about. That's what it's all about right there.
a great guy.
Oh man. And he's
Oh,
going to be a Royal for maybe lifetime. Signed a big long contract with him. That's good for baseball right there in the Kansas City area.
Yeah, and I did pick the Royals to be pretty good this year. I think I got them finishing second in that division
I
behind
think
the
I got the Tigers in there. I think
yeah.
that's who I took.
Um, but I really like the way the Kansas City team is made up. And Nelson Velasquez, who they got from the Cubs last year for Jose Cuas, who I'll rag on in about 20 minutes.
Man,
He went long the other day. I was watching a Royals game. He went long, so he's having a pretty good year so far. Awesome stuff. So, how about the Pirates?
yeah. How about them Pirates? Vince, we got our hands full this year. The Brewers, surprise, surprise so far. The Reds, who you've been talking about them being really good. I do think they're improved. And the Pirates, who a lot of people picked for last. My God, we got our hands full this year. It's going to be a tough division. You're right. The Pirates are looking good.
They had back-to-back walk-offs against the Orioles. Um, Now the second walk-off, the second night when they walked them off, it looked like it was going to be a double play. And gosh,
Rowdy Tellez.
Gunnar Henderson made a
Oh,
tremendous play and got the ball, and there was a runner on first. Got the force out, and then he went to throw. Would have been a game-ending double play. I think the bases were loaded, but he threw it away, and a couple runs scored, and walked him off that way. But I like um, Hyde, Brandon Hyde, the Orioles manager. After the game, they were talking about, Henderson's mistake. He said, wait a minute. He said, very few shortstops are going to get to that ball. That was a tremendous play. If he doesn't get to it, the game's over anyway. So don't blame him for the loss.
I don't know if you saw this, and I was going to get your take on this, but I've been watching the Pirates highlights because I'm just kind of surprised about how good they came out of the shoots. They've taught their players like there was a play at third base, and it was a good slide, but they hooked the third baseman's leg, and he tripped when he was throwing the ball to first, and they're going in and using all the room they can to impede some throws, which is by the letter of the law is fair. But this was the thing that kind of caught me off guard on that play. Rowdy Tellez was going to second, and usually when they get the ball and throw it, they slide or they get out of the way. But Tellez just stood there, and Vince, I don't know about you, but like if Sean Dunston was coming up with that ball, it's only going to take one time for like our shortstop Wynn, who throws 102 miles an hour, to let one go and nail them. And I don't want to see that happen, but they're going to have to start hitting the dirt going into second, or something bad's going to happen.
That reminds me of a story. My brother-in-law, who passed away about a month ago. Anyway, my brother-in-law was half crazy, he had no fear. And his brother Charlie was this of the same ilk, had no fear. We're playing in a softball game, and Charlie's on first base, and a guy hits a hot shot to the shortstop, who grabs it and runs to get the force out at second, and then he's going to throw to first, and Charlie's not getting out of the way. And you can see the guy like, okay, he's going to
Here he
duck,
comes.
go, and Charlie just boom right in the face, broke up the.
Well, that's a heck of a way to do it, man.
Charlie was so proud of himself. Yeah,
Oh,
over my face, man. So
man, I got to respect that, but man, that's tough going right there.
yeah. Uh, I do want to bring up Jerry Grope passed away. Jerry was a catcher for the Mets, and he played for that 69 Miracle Mets team, two-time All-Star. Wasn't known much of as an offensive catcher, kind of a defensive guy, but he had that pitching staff of Seaver, Kuzman, Gentry, a very young Ryan, and they won the 69 World Series. Later, John Matlack was in that rotation, and he was instrumental in bringing those young pitchers into the majors, getting them acclimated, and he would call the games. And they gave him a lot of credit, particularly Seaver, Matlock, and Kuzman. for helping getting their careers going in the right direction. And one thing I do remember about Jerry Grote, he I think it was the 78 World Series. The Dodgers are playing the Yankees, and he's playing for the Dodgers backup catcher for Yeager. And there was a runner on first, and I don't know who it was, tried to bunt and bunted right in front of the plate. And Grote, who was getting older at this time, pops up like a jack in the box, grabs the ball, fires the guy out at second base. Okay, so now there's one out man on first. Next batter tried the very same thing happened. Grote pops up like a jack in the box and guns the guy out at second base. So I wasn't watching baseball in 69 to see the 69 World Series, but I did see him have a really cool moment. And I think it was a 70, it was either 77, 78, but I think it was a 78 World Series. So rest in peace, Jerry Grote.
Well, I would also wanted to do a little tribute to Pat Zachary, who passed away. Pat Zachary, I got a couple of his cards here. Here he is. I always remember him looking like this, kind of a beard, looking kind of wild manish right there with the Mets. But here he is, clean shaven with the New York Mets right there. And Pat Zachary played. This was for a lot of the young folks out there. He let's see. He played from 1976 to 1985, a nice career. Came up with the Reds, played with the Mets, as you saw there, the Dodgers, and the Phillies. And in 1970, he was selected in the 19th round, and he was drafted by the Cincinnati Reds, and he spent 6 years in the minors. But 1971, as we know, Vietnam was going on. He got the call to come to the military, and he did not pass his physical to join the Army. And that happened to a lot of guys. They'd go in there and they were either flat-footed or colorblind or something like that, but he didn't pass his physical. So he stayed in the minor leagues, and he came up in 1975, and the Reds were coming off the World Championship, and they traded Clay Kirby to the Expos to make room for Pat Zachary to come up and pitch. And that first year in 1976, he went 14-7 and had a 2.74 ERA with 143 strikeouts and 204 innings. Pitched fantastic. Big part of that. And of course, the Cincinnati Reds go on to back-to-back World Championships. Then he pitched in Game 2 of the playoffs against the Phillies and won. And then he won in Game 3 of the World Series against the Yankees. And the Yankees was a very good team as well, and the Phillies, but did a very good job. He was co-rookie of the year, and here's a name for you, Vince: Roger Metzger of the Padres. So Pat Zachary, Roger Metzger was co-rookie of the years that year, and basically he had a couple years as a starter, and then went to the bullpen and had a nice 10-year career. He played with the Reds from 76 and 77, went to the Mets from 77 to 82, and the Dodgers 83 to 84, and finally finished up with the Phillies in 85, and had a very nice career. Won All-Star game, won World Championship. He was Rookie of the Year, like I said, and overall his record was 69 and 67, but had a nice 10-year career. And I just kind of wanted to remember Pat Zachary out there, because I always remember that name, and it was fun looking up information on him.
Yeah, Zachary had the misfortune of being part of that trade that brought Tom Seaver to Cincinnati.
Oh, okay.
It was Zachary, Daryl Cheney.
Remember Daryl Cheney?
I should have looked this up. It was about 4 or 5 Reds went to the Mets for Tom Seaver. The same day, the Mets also traded away Dave Kingman. And Mr. Marianello, he could probably shed some light on this.
Yes.
I know that the Mets weren't happy with the trades, and I kind of wonder if they if Pat had a good time in New York, if maybe it was always the stigma, oh, you're the guy, the main guy we got for Seaver, and
you're right. That does happen a lot. I was shocked they traded away Tom Seaver.
Yeah. Well, he asked for it, so not I didn't mean it in a bad way. He asked for it. He actually did ask for a trade. So what's going on in Cardinal news?
Well, the Cardinals are starting out the season, and we're 5-6. And I'm kind of proud of them. The games have been competitive. And if you look at the Cardinals, I know y'all, everybody talks about our old starting pitchers and our big three, which is Contreras and Goldschmidt and Arenado, and they're being up there in the years a little bit. But the Cardinals are a very, very young team. And I was looking through this, and under the age of 25, we have 11 guys in our roster under the age of 25. And if you go under 27, you can add three more to that. So that's a very, very young team and a lot of growing pains. But I tell you what, last year was just, we weren't even competitive last year. But through that, a lot of these guys got some playing time last year. And I think it's going to come in handy for this year and years to come. And two guys that have stood out so far in the early going of the young players is when our shortstop has looked fantastic. He's hitting over 300. He's making sliding plays. That arm, every time I hear another broadcast or hear ESPN or MLB talking, they're talking about his arm because this guy, Sean Dunston, like when he throws the ball across the diamond, it's pretty incredible. And he's hitting very well too. And the other one is Ivan Herrera. And he's gotten a lot of playing time right now because Contreras is a little dinged up, which I'll get to in a minute. But coming through with some big hits and playing very good behind the plate and making some really good throws out there too when people have tried to run on us.
Did I
The
see
Cardinals,
you got him batting in the middle of the lineup?
yeah, he was batting fourth the other day, and he was the youngest Cardinal. This reminds me, this is the best hitting tandem of catchers I think we've had since the Ted Simmons years, where these two guys can really go out there and be a big part of our lineup. Nothing against Yachty, but Yachty was defensive extraordinaire, working the pitchers and all that. He'd come up with a big hit, but he hit 300 a couple of times. But his first part of his career, he was just not known for his bat at all. So it's been so much fun. Yeah, he batted fourth the other day, hit a home run, takes big swings. I think he's got two already, and he's looking pretty darn good. And again, because he's young, I think he strikes out a little bit too much. And that's been the biggest downfall so far of us. We just strike out so much. If they could just put the bat on the ball, and I think that would be so much better. But uh, after we talked last week, we had one game against the Dodgers and left, and we lost that one. But Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we played the Padres, and we won the first two, 6-2 and 5-2 out in San Diego. And then we lost the last one 3-2. Very competitive game. It was good. Our pitching was good. Our bullpen was great. But the only thing I have to say about that whole series, and I wrote notes so small, I can't even read them. I even have a magnifying glass here, and I can't even read my notes. Donovan got 3 hits. I see in that.
Go to the eye doctor, get
I
some
know.
glasses. Your
I'm in
homework will be
denial.
transformed.
I'm in denial, but I do write very, very small. If you send this writing, nobody in their right mind could read this. But I've been very happy with our pitching. But that something was going on with San Diego. They hit us 5 times, and Donovan got hit twice in the game. Contreras got hit twice in that series, and one was on the knuckles. And he's a very tough player, as you know. He's a very tough guy. He wants to go out there. He wants to play, but slow down, take it easy. We don't want you getting hurt. He wanted to come back, but he just couldn't swing the bat as well as he should be able to. So he's been, riding the pine right now. And there, if we need him, he is our number one catcher. But Herrera's done a very good job backing up. And I don't think none of these pitches were intentional. They just pitched inside and it got away from them. And most of the time we got hit, it was change ups. So I know there wasn't intention, and none of them were at the head or nothing like that. But we did get hit a lot in that series. So we won that series after losing the first series to the Dodgers, 1 out of 4. We got a win there. We won 2 out of 3 against the Padres, and then we got to go up against Florida Marlins. And Florida, um, well, I'll talk about that in a minute. But we won Wednesday 8-5. We had a weird day off. Friday we were off. We
Yeah.
came back Saturday. Yeah, that was odd. I guess they put a lot of days in there because in case of rainouts and things. Our opening day was against Florida. And let's see, anything I need to say about that? Arenado had 3 hits in the game. And after a slow start, he's really coming on and playing great defense as usual. Saturday, we won 3-1. Herrera and Donovan both got 2 hits, and Matz went 5 innings and no runs. And Helsley got his third save. And Helsley has looked really good, and he has pitched back to back. And that was some concern because last year he didn't want to pitch back to back. This year he is going out there and pitching in back to back games. And Sunday, a blowout. Happens to everybody. Last year happened a lot, but but Sunday we had a blowout. It was 10-3. Gorman was 2 for 4, but hit 2 home runs and had 3 RBIs. And Kyle Gibson was just got lit up in the first inning with 2 3-run homers. Did go 6 innings, which is very vital, even in a blowout, because it saved our bullpen. Because we're going to need those guys. Because now we're playing Philadelphia. Uh, we lost last night to Philadelphia, but it went to extra innings, 10 innings it took, and they came back and they had the lead the whole way. And we came back at the end to tie it, only to lose it in extra innings. But what I like about this team, Vince, we got more team speed than we've had in a long time. These young guys have really energized the team. Our defense, we were the last team to make an error. I think it was Sunday was the first game we made an error. We made 2 errors in that game. So I'm not saying we're the best defensive team, but we're a good defensive team, and that's going to help us in the long run. And our pitchers are going deeper into games. So far, it's early. We're 5-6 though. And this week we got the Phillies at home, and we're playing our second, third game against them, and then we'll go to Arizona. So things don't get any easier. As you know, you guys have had a tough schedule. We've had a tough schedule. I was proud of them about that. It was good to see, Mike Schilt, and I love him. And then at the opening day, Skip Schumacher is the coach of Florida, and big ovation for Skip. I think he was kind of moved by it all because I always think of him as a Cardinal deep down, no matter where he goes or what he does. In my book, he'll always be a Cardinal. But Vince, what did you think about this? He had a club option for next year, and they've already said we're not going to exercise that club option for Skip Schumacher. And I believe last year, wasn't he the manager of the year?
Yeah,
And
but that's Florida.
yeah, I mean, is there no loyalty anymore? This guy, for years, they didn't make the playoffs. And yes, they are 1-9, but they've got 4 starting pitchers hurt, 4 of their top guys. And I think that's understandable. If we had our 4 top pitchers gone, well, that we'd probably be 1-10 too, if we were lucky.
But
So
that Florida team last year was not a good team. They had good pitching, no offense, not much
yeah.
offense. I mean, shouldn't say no, not much offense. Arise Chisholm Jr. But other than that, not a whole lot going on there, and he still took them to the playoffs. So that one, it,
Yeah.
it, it, I did see a few people who, because some people are going to complain about anything. How can we lose
Yes.
to the Marlins? You're going to lose to the Marlins every now and then. Sorry,
Everybody does.
they beat. It's not a big deal. I remember one year, I think it was 78. So, memories from 78 are coming back, 78, 79, somewhere around there. The Yankees could not beat the Mariners, who were terrible. They had a game fits. It happens. It's baseball. So
It's Yeah, and I mean, they got professional players on that team too.
yeah,
So
they have millionaires too. So
yeah, but I think the Florida Marlins are a team in disarray. They had that general manager, a lady, Ning or something like that. Her last name was something that started with an N, and they
yeah,
they got rid of her, and she was nothing but did fantastic, great trades, built up a nice team. Minor leagues were looking good, and they got rid of her. So, and then Jeter left. I'm not sure what's going on with Florida.
I think she may have resigned.
They
It,
hired somebody above her. That's what it was.
yeah.
And I think she deserved to be she's done nothing but a great job for that organization. So I hope she ends up somewhere else and sticks it to Florida Marlins. That's what I'd like to see. Some of our players that have done really good, like I mentioned the defense, but Arenado has a 9-game hitting streak. It's good to see him going. Donovan is just, I mean, 6 and 9 pitch at bats, really working the pitcher. That is so good to see. Uh, Herrera, I know Victor Scott II has had this shot. It's only been 11 games, but he's only hitting like 0.86, has 2 stolen bases, playing great defense. Um, I don't know. Well, we're going to see because Lars Newbar is just about to go down to Memphis. I think he has went down there to start his rehab. Sonny Gray's coming back. I don't know who's going to be the odd man out there, but it's good to see him back. He's got a 65 pitch count tonight against Florida. We're going against Zach Wheeler, who has owned the Cardinals. Talking about players or teams owning other teams. Zach Wheeler, I think, has a 5-game winning streak against us. We just, but that means we're due. That Vince, that just means we're due to finally hit Zach Wheeler right there. Helsley 3 saves. Lynn's got 12 Ks. I like that gritty guy. I know he's not the top 10 pitcher in all of baseball, but I like his grit. Um, let's see. Anything else I need to? We have a third string catcher that came up. He did very good in the minors. Pedro Pages. He was called up, and Matt Carpenter is now on the injured reserve. And Riley O'Brien is on the IR, and we brought up John King. And Riley O'Brien is about a 30-year-old guy who has only pitched like 3 games in the majors, and he had his first relief appearance, and then he got hurt, and he did such a good job in the minors. Ryan Fernandez, who was hurt all last year, came in and struck out the side. That's good to see. I think they're doing baby steps with him, getting him into the rotation and all that. But let's see, what else was I going to go over here? Oh, the Cardinals. And well, actually, Ozzie Smith has a new canned cocktail. It's called Backflip. And there's 2 flavors. And it's got Ozzy upside down on the can doing his flip. And one is grapefruit and one is lemonade. And it's sold where all spirits. What was that, Fred? Dirt Cheap Beer and Liquor. Probably you can go to Fred Dirt Cheap Beer and Liquor where that chicken is and get that.
The more you drink, the more she drinks, the better you look.
Fred, he had a way with words, didn't he? So that's pretty much my Cardinal news. I know I went at a high speed right there. I just didn't want to bore anybody or anything. And Vince, before we get off the topic, I'm telling you, I get so many messages about our fantasy league and everybody talking smack and, hey, did you see this? Did you see that? We got people following teams that never would have followed the teams. So I'm just going to kind of go over. I don't have any high special effects here, but we're going to kind of go over the American League right now. Last week it was the Tigers in first. Well, the Red Sox have jumped over them. The Red Sox are now in first. They're 7-3, and that's Ray Hartman. So he has jumped in. Tony Pruno has slipped down to 6-4, and he's in second place. The Angels and the Royals, which is Candy Barks and Brody Jackson, and they're both right there at 6-4. Then we have the Seattle Mariners, and that's Gieselman, the beer man from the Cardinal games. You guys remember him. And right now he's in 5th place. He's dropped 2 spots. And in last place, Dan Rutledge and the Chicago White Sox at 1-9. And they've been hit with the injury bug. They just had Mercado go down today, and Lewis Roberts has went down. So my gosh. So right now, if the season was over, Ray Hartman would just get past Tony Pruno and take first place. So the Red Sox. And by the way, Tyler O'Neill hit his 6th home run today.
Yeah.
6 home runs. So Cardinal fans, I don't want to hear it. Oh, we shouldn't have got rid of Tyler. You guys were running him out of town, so I don't want to hear it. National League, our fantasy league, National League, we've got the steady Pittsburgh Pirates still in first, and now they're 9-2. My goodness. Dennis Rose is already popping the champagne over there in DeSoto, Missouri. Second place, we got Larry Wildy with the Cubbies, who are 6-4. Then the Cardinals are in third at 5-6, Kevin Lee. 4th place, we got the Padres, Robbie Spear. I'm sure you're going to be talking about the Padres here in a minute. 6-7. The Nationals, Tom Maget, 4-6. And in last place is the Colorado Rockies, 3-8, Brandon Schmidt, but they're still better than the old Chicago White Sox. So that's our fantasy league. And if the season ended right now, our World Series would be the Pirates and the Red Sox. 2 classic organizations right there, Vince. So that's our report on our fantasy league.
All right, in Cub news, I'll start with some positives. Jameson Taillon's starting his rehab start, so he looks to be back in the rotation soon. Julian Merriweather, who is he and Outlider Jr. are head and shoulders above the rest of our bullpen. He's on the IL. He's got a back issue, and the only thing that will cure this issue is rest. So he has to take 4 weeks of no baseball activity and rest his back, which means another 4 or 5 weeks to get himself back ramped up to be So you might as well 60-day IL him. And the reason you would do 60-day instead of a 10-day is that if you do a 60-day IL, that's going to take him off the 40-man roster. You can put someone on the 40-man roster. So you might as well do that. Who, who we've called up Daniel Palancia. Um, and we have one more spot that is going to need to be taken because I'll get to him in a minute. Quash better not be on this team too much longer. Um, on our if we're going to call up another relief pitcher, there's really only two options on the 40-man roster. There is Hayden Wisniewski, and I don't like that option because he has proven that he's not getting out uh, left-handers. He's not getting out left-handers at all. And we also have on the deal Keegan Thompson, who 2 years ago looked really good, and last year he just looked like a deer in headlights, and he didn't look really great in spring training either. So if we put Merriweather on the 60-day IL, that's going to open up a 40-man roster spot, and hopefully, if that happens, we can put Carl Edwards Jr., who is not on the 40-man roster,
Oh,
but
yeah.
he hasn't pitched in AAA yet, but he is working out. Hopefully that we could fit him on the roster because I think we need, people think Carl Edwards Jr. is an old man. He's only 32. I know he's been around for a long time, but he's only 32. And his last 2 years in Washington, he has been good. So I kind of hope we go in that direction. Patrick Wisdom is rehabbing, and when he comes back, who will go down? I don't know. Garrett Cooper, who's hitting like 350. I don't know who's going to go down. If you ask me my opinion, just let him rehab and then DFA him and let someone else pick it up. Friend of the show, Bo Thompson, who did the 1 million Chicago Cub baseball cards. So I don't know how the Cubs got word of this, but anyway, they invited him to the game and they gave him his millionth baseball card, which was a baseball card of himself, which was very cool. And then he got to throw out the first pitch. So that was pretty cool.
I'm
Gosh,
proud of him.
here's Bo Thompson. So that was awesome. This week the Cubs went 4-2, which sounds pretty good. We started the week on Wednesday, being we record on Tuesday, and we played our second game against the Rockies, and we smashed them 12-2. Suzuki homered, Morel homered, Cooper homered, and notes. Papers six together. Assad got the win, pitched six shutout innings. Quas came in, pitched 2 innings, gave up 2 runs. And but anyway, 12-2, we're playing the Rockies. Who cares? Next night we win 9-8 to sweep the Rockies. And yeah, it sounds outstanding, but we were up 8-2, and then we had to hang on by the skin of our teeth. Suzuki hit another home run. Suzuki looks great, 4 RBIs in that game. And our pitching, this is the game where we started with an opener. We started with Luke Little, opener, who became the first pitcher in like 50 years to finish a game one night and start the very next game. Oh. So he pitched 1 inning and looked really good. Then we brought in Ben Brown, who was starting tonight, pitched 4 innings, gave up 3 hits, 1 earned run, and looked really good. Towards the end of the game, Almonte came in and 1/3 of an inning, 3 runs. Hector Neris, who has been terrible, we're paying him $9 million to be terrible. He pitched 2/3 of an inning, gave up 2 more runs, and Alzolay came in and got the save. So we hung on. Well, we have the Dodgers coming into town, which is, kind of our big thing. So the first game, we outscored the Dodgers and win 9-7. Hap hit a triple. Swanson and Bush homered, and Suzuki had 3 RBIs. And Hendricks did not look good. Second straight start, he hasn't looked good. The Merriweather came in the 8th and held them down, and then Alzolay came in the 9th and got the save. So we're pretty happy. We've won with that last game in Texas, we were on a 5-game winning streak.
You said that was like playoff atmosphere, that
Oh
that
gosh,
Dodger game.
that first Dodger game, that was a playoff atmosphere, and I haven't seen anything in early April that's had that kind of emotion.
Yeah.
The second game against the Dodgers, we lost 4-1. Um, Nothing much happened on the offense. Bellinger did get a couple of hits. Jordan Wicks, he pitched into the fifth, gave up 2 runs. Quas came in, gave up a run because he's terrible. And Almonte uh, actually had a pretty good outing. So we lost 4-1. I do want to say that first game we won, we beat that Miller kid. We knocked him out by the second inning.
He
We
killed us.
we
He
crushed.
killed us the game.
Felt kind of bad for him because he's a Chicago native. Um,
Oh,
but yeah, I was worried about him, and boy, he looks good. We were just hitting him good. Second game, we faced Yamamoto, and I think he pitched 7 shutout innings, and
that's his best start yet.
yeah, and my guy, that is the weirdest curveball I've ever seen. It doesn't look like anything else. Yeah, I don't. I'd like to see a slow motion how he throws it, because it almost looks like it just kind of flicks it up there. It's a very weird, and I can see why when you're throwing a curveball, unlike anybody else, but I can see why his ERA is below 2 in Japan. We'll see how it goes here. So the rubber game on Sunday, we won 8-1. There was a 3-hour rain delay in the middle of the game, but it was still cool. Bush had a double. Bellinger hit a home run. Bush had 3 RBIs. Imanaga, he pitched the first 4 innings, a shutout baseball, but then after the 3-hour rain delay, we didn't bring him in. We went Almonte, Leiter Jr., and Palencia to win it. But I thought it was very interesting that in that game, Bellinger hit a home run. Bush had a big game. Almonte pitched good. So players we got from the Dodgers all really contributed to that last game. So we're pretty happy. We're 4-1 for the week. And then last night we're playing San Diego. In the sixth inning, we are up 8-0. We lost that damn game 9-8. I am glad I was too tired to watch it. I will watch the game tonight. But I will say this. In baseball, you have games like this. Every team has.
Everybody.
Sometimes games you don't think you're going to win, you win. Something weird happens and you win. Sometimes you think you got the game in hand and you collapse. Okay. You have 2 responses to that. You can either be a mature team and say, okay, that's not us. That's an aberration. And that was just weird. We move on. Or you can be a team that internalizes it. My gosh, man, how did we blow that? We must really suck. Blah, 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 blah. Those are the emotional responses to it. You can either say we're moving on from here or we suck. It can define your season or you can just move on. Hopefully the Cubs move on. They've got a lot of veterans. I think they're going to move on. The big thing is Assad pitched 5 innings, gave up 2 earned runs, struck out 7. Assad pitched good. Foss came in 1/3 of an inning, 3 hits, 4 runs, 2 of them earned. Luke Little came in, pitched an inning, gave up a run. First run he's given up in the major leagues, by the way. Hector Neris came in, pitched an inning, gave up another run. His ERA sits at 7.36. Alzolay comes in, and he pitches 2/3 of an inning, and he gives up the winning run. And I think it was Tatis Jr. who hit the home run off of him. Let me say this. Quas has been terrible this year. Every appearance he's come in, he has been terrible. Neris has been terrible this year. Now, Neris is not going anywhere. He's being paid $9 million. Hopefully he can figure this out. I mean, he was great in Houston last year, but maybe they knew something we didn't. I don't know. But he needs to be that 7th to 8th inning guy. Okay. Alzolay has blown 2 saves already. He blew the opening day save when he gave up the home run to Travis Janikowski, who may never hit another home run this year. but he's playing the Cubs, so he's going to go deep. And then he gave up the home run to lose it last night. Um, Alzolay, I like him. I just don't have confidence with him as a closer because that is the one position you have to have swing and miss stuff. And Alzolay has a mid-90s fastball. He throws three pitches. He throws a curve. He throws a slider. So he throws three pitches, but he's more or less that middle to late inning setup guy. We only have a few pitchers who have swing and miss stuff. Merriweather, who's on the 60-day disabled list, so he ain't going to be closing any games. Um, Leiter Jr., who is great against left-handers with that splitter, but even though he's a right-hander, but he can have his struggles against right-handers. The only pitcher that we have besides Merriweather that I have confidence that can strike out anybody from both sides of the plate is Luke Little. He's got the best stuff coming out of the bullpen, but we're putting him in these situations, even though he didn't pitch very well yesterday, 2 walks and a hit and a run. Even though he didn't pitch well yesterday, it's the first time he's had a bad outing in the major leagues. If I'm Craig Counsell, I'm going to say, hey, you got the best stuff on the staff. Can you handle closing? Now, you can see if someone's got closer stuff. You just watch them warm up, watch them pitch. You can see it. You don't know what's up here, though. And you
That's
never
true.
know what's up here with the closer until you put their butt out there in the ninth inning and see if they can close the game. I would rather them try to get Luke Little tonight, possibly, or whenever, the next save opportunity to see if he's got it up here to be a closer. He's 6'8". He's left-handed. He throws 100 miles an hour plus. He's got a wicked slider. He comes 3/4. He's very tough to pick up, very tough to hit. The knock against him is he'll give up some walks. Okay, that's fine. You're going to give up a few walks. It drives me crazy. But you want to know what really drives me crazy with the closer? When they give up game-winning home runs, which Alzolay has done twice already this year. So I I I'm like any other fan. I woke up about 1:30 to go to the bathroom, which is too much information, but anyway, get my phone out and I see how we did, and I saw
Oh,
we lost 9-8. And then when I saw how we lost, I'm not going to get back to sleep today because the emotion takes over. So I purposefully did not watch any videos. I didn't listen to any podcasts about baseball or anything until about 3 o'clock today, so I could get that emotion out of me and kind of look at this from an unbiased, more level-headed point of view. So there is some work that needs to be done in the bullpen, and I have confidence that Counsell can figure it out. Um, I've heard people say, well, we need to trade for a closer, get like find a team and trade for a closer. No teams are trading 1 week into the season. That's like saying I give up. The
yeah.
Marlins are 1-9. They're not even going to trade. They're not going to say I give up. That's something that starts happening maybe in June. Um, so the answers are going to have to come from within. And my deal is this: it sucks that Merriweather's out. It sucks that Steele is out. It sucks that Tyone has been out. We've had some injuries, but we are 6-4. We've played a very good schedule. 3 of those wins have come against the Rockies, which is they count.
They count.
But we need to figure this out fast because we have 2 more games in San Diego. Then we go to Seattle. This month we still have uh, Arizona left. I think we have Houston left. And I think we go to Los Angeles, maybe. I don't know. I just know for the rest of this month, the only team that we have that is not a good team is the Marlins. Other than that, the schedule is brutal, and we really do need to figure this out quickly. And I would like to see a reshuffle of the bullpen, move, get rid of Quas. He's adding nothing to this team. Um, Move Neris to where he's in lower leverage stuff. Let him find himself again. Keep Leiter Jr. as the 8th inning guy. and see if Luke Little could close out these games. Move Alzolay down to low leverage stuff and let him find himself a little bit. But I do think if we are going to make a serious run, we have to have a closer that can miss bats. And Alzolay's just not that guy. So that's Cub. I
You
did
know,
with the minimal of cursing. The reason
well,
I'm wearing a hat is because I pulled all my hair out.
we talked about this year, Vince. Injuries. Every team's going to have to deal with them. The team is a living organism. You're trying to find the right combination. The Cardinals have a lot of lefties, right, left, right, left. You guys are trying to figure out your bullpen. I'm pretty happy with our bullpen, even with the injuries. We both have played a tough schedule, and being 5-6, and you guys are playing the Padres now. That's a great team. That's a team a lot of people are picking to be in the playoffs. Played the Dodgers. We had the Dodgers. You did better against them than we did. But my gosh, this is not getting any easier. And I'm ready I'm enjoying April. We're 5-6. And just take our time. Edmund and the new bar and Sonny Gray. And we've got that kid we picked up this winter in the bullpen. It's coming. And
Well,
and so far we've handled the injuries okay. And there's gonna be other injuries, there's gonna be surprises. See what happens. But my goodness, it's been fun, hasn't it, Vince, having it back?
it's better than no baseball at all.
Amen.
We
Yeah.
if Alzolay closes out the two games that he's blown, we're 8-2, and
Nice.
we're like, oh, great.
Well,
But
last year we blew more games than anybody. If we just
yeah,
had half of them, we would have made the playoffs. And then, as bad as that year was, yeah, my goodness.
yeah. Well, um, who doesn't have to deal with injuries?
Never. He's 24 hours, 7 days a week. Jeremy Connor.
Jeremy Connor never has to deal with an injury. Comes a time in every man's life when he needs some advice on relationships. You need to listen to the podcast DMDR, which stands for Dating, Marriage, Divorce, Remarriage, from my good friend Jeremy Connor, the Dr. Phil of the Boot Hill. You can find DMDR on Spotify or whatever platform you choose to listen to your podcast. Okay, we are resuming our top 5 positions, players that we've seen play in our lifetime, and we are on second baseman. And I had a lot of fun with this.
I did too.
You all know who one of my favorite second basemen is. So I'll go ahead and go first.
Please.
My number 5 is Hall of Famer Craig Biggio.
Ah.
Biggio, oh shoot, I don't have his years he played. Don't have. How did I forget that? But Biggio, he had a career WAR of 65.5. He finished his career with 3,060 hits, 291 home runs. So he had a little bit of pop for a second baseman, career 281 average. He stole 414 stolen bases, had an OPS of 796, 7 All-Star games, 4 Gold Gloves, and 5 Silver Sluggers. That shows you how stacked second base is, because Craig Biggio, who's a Hall of Famer, is my number 5. Started as a catcher, also played some center field, but got the bulk of his at-bats playing second base. And moving from catcher to where it's hard on your knees to a very athletic position of second base just shows what kind of an athletic human freak he was.
I don't have Craig Biggio, but great pick. Great pick. I actually, number 5 for me, I have went back and forth probably 10 times on this. And, I'm going from 1974 to present day. So 50 years and one day. Well, no, that was Hank Aaron. My gosh. I'm going number 5, Bobby Grich, and mainly with the California Angels. 6-time All-Star. He won a World Series, 4-time Gold Glove, won a Silver Slugger. In 1981, he was a home run leader, and he had a overall in his career a .995 fielding percentage. Played 17 years, a lot of double plays, predominantly a second baseman, a 71.1 WAR. Now he's not in the Hall of Fame, but I've heard that WAR, if you consider 60 points, usually a Hall of Famer is 60 points and higher. And that doesn't just automatically make you a Hall of Famer, but he's 71.1 WAR. He had 1,833 hits. that kind of hurt him against this other guy that I went back and forth on. 224 home runs, a batting average of 266. Um, let's see, over 100 stolen bases, and on base percentage 371, slugging 424. So I put Bobby Grich. Now, Bobby Grich's main career, I didn't get to see him play. I only read about Bobby Grich, seen highlights of Bobby Grich, and back of the baseball card kind of stuff. But I always liked him, and every game I got to see him play, he was the guy that was like a focal point for me watching him play. So anyway, I put number 5, Bobby Grich of the Angels.
Very good. Uh, Grish is also a pretty good golfer. At least he was when he was younger.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I read an article on him in Sports Illustrated a few years ago, and because he was one of that class of very first big name free agents, and they asked him how retirement was. He says, "I hate to say this, but man, it's great. I just get up and play golf every day." So
Sounds pretty good to me.
yeah. So um, number 4, I have the world's greatest spitter, Roberto Alomar.
Yes.
Career WAR of 67. He's a Hall of Famer too. He had 2,724 career hits, 210 home runs, a career batting average of 300.
Hey.
300. That's beautiful. 300. He did steal 474 bases, and he had an OPS of 814, a 12-time All-Star, 10 Gold Gloves, and 3 Silver Sluggers. And going over his offense, really good offense, but fielding wise, he was the class of the American League for a long time. And even when he played a little bit for the Padres, he and Sandberg, kind of overlapped there.
Yeah.
So that hurt him a little bit. But I have him at number 4. I just wish he wouldn't have spit on the umpire, because that's the first thing I think of when I think of Roberto Alomar.
Yes. I had him on my fantasy league, and yeah, that was the year he did that. Well, my number 4, this may surprise you, I don't know, but I put Sweet Lou Whitaker. 19 years with Detroit Tigers, played with one team. I think that means a lot right there, too. You automatically think Detroit Tigers. Lou Whitaker is one of the first people you think of. Lou Whitaker, and this is an odd stat. A lot of people, this is important to me. I like guys that can put the bat on the ball. Lou Whitaker walked 98 in his career, 98 more times than he struck out. That's phenomenal. To me, that's a guy that he shows up. 19 years he played in the big leagues. He was Rookie of the Year, a 5-time All-Star, 3-time Gold Glove. He was on what I consider the best team I ever seen play, the 1984 Detroit Tigers. That team was phenomenal. And he was a 4-time Silver Slugger, and 1,522 double plays. And he's joined at the hip with Alan Trammell, who, in my lifetime, easily one of the top 5 double play combinations. Whitaker and Trammell right there. But he had 244 home runs, which was a surprise. I didn't know he hit that many home runs. Stolen bases, 143. Batting average, 276. And a WAR of 75.1. He was steady Eddie. He didn't miss much. And he was a healthy guy, took care of himself, and was always reliable. And so my number 4 is Lou Whitaker, Detroit Tigers.
All right. Moving into number 3 is the only current player that I have on my list, and that's Jose Altuve. Started his career in 2011. He has a career WAR of 50.1, and that will just keep going up as he continues to play. He already has 2,062 hits, 212 home runs, a 308 career batting average. He has stolen 293 bases, which doesn't sound like a whole lot compared to my first 2 guys, but he's playing in an era where the home run is more prominent than the stolen base. So very good. He has a career OPS of 836, which is tops among second basemen that are on my list. He has won an MVP, 8 All-Star game appearances. He has won a Gold Glove and 6 Silver Sluggers. And he has done that with a height of 3'4". Jose Altuve, my number 3.
Great choice. And when you look at Jose Altuve, you say that's a Hall of Famer right there. The only problem in my list is he hadn't had the experience these other guys had, but I think when it's all said and done, he'll be right up there with the big shots when it's all said and done. But my number three, and you've already mentioned him, Roberto Alomar. I put him at my number three of all time. A fielding percentage of .980, and that's pretty good for a career. A WAR of 67. 12, like you said, 12-time All-Star, 4-time Silver Slugger, All-Star MVP, 10 Gold Gloves, got the job done. There wasn't an aspect of the game that he didn't accomplish. Home runs, 210 for a second baseman. That's outstanding. 2,724 hits. I mean, you can just go through here. Stolen bases, 474. Did everything. And he never was a Cardinal. I always wished he was on the Cardinals. He played for a lot of teams, but I always think of him as either a Padre or a Blue Jay. And that was where he won his 2 World Series, which he was one of the big reasons they won those World Series. But my number three, Roberto Alomar.
Very good. My number two is Ryne Sandberg. He played from 81 to 97. And I think it was the 95 season. He sat out most of that season. And so anyway, but Sandberg has a career WAR 67.9, 2,386 hits, 282 home runs, once led the league in home runs. He had 41 year. He had a 285 career batting average, 344 stolen bases, and a 795 OPS. He has an MVP, 10 All-Star game appearances, 9 Gold Gloves, and 7 Silver Sluggers. And in the National League during that time, Ryne Sandberg was head and shoulders above everybody else at second base. And I knew we had something special. He came up his first year, he played third base. We got him from the Phillies. And a lot of people don't realize this. He actually had a few at bats for the Phillies the year before. So he does have that little Philly thing. How many at bats, maybe a handful. But his first year up with the Cubs, he played third base. And then they moved into second base. First year he played second base, natural shortstop. First year he played at second base. He won a Gold Glove in no, that was 83, won his first Gold Glove. When he first came out in 84 and he had his MVP season, it wasn't so much a physical change that he did in his hitting. He had a talk with the hitting coach. I can't remember who the hitting coach was now. And they talked about something nobody talks about today, situational hitting. And he was telling Sandberg, when you get a runner in scoring position, because Sandberg was just kind of a slap hitter at that time, and you're big enough, try to drive the ball into the gap, try to get some extra base hits, try to drive some runs home. And Sandberg, batting second, took that to heart. And I think he hit 19 home runs that year and hit a ton of triples and a bunch of doubles. And his fielding is off the charts. I went to a game and I sat in the right field bleachers, and the Cardinals were playing the Cubs. And twice during that game, Cardinals got hits going into right field, because I've sat in the bleachers many times and I know a hit that's not going to be fielded. Twice Sandberg comes out of nowhere and fields that ball without diving and throws about a first. I thought, man, that guy is really, really good at second base. And he developed more power as he got older. And like I said, he had a year where he hit 30 home runs, and then he led the league one year with 40 home runs. So he just became a great 5-tool player and the second baseman of the 80s for the National League.
Well, that's what I admire about you, Vince. You're honest and you look at things and through, like, you're not. A lot of the fans we know, Cardinal fans, oh, the Cardinal players are the greatest, and the Cub fans, Cub players are the best. But you looked at it, and I put Ryne Sandberg, my number two as well. Admired him. Can't believe the Cubs got him. I didn't know much about him, but Dallas Green, who's with the Phillies, came over to the Cubs, and he knew about Ryan Sandberg, and he got him over there. One of the all-time greatest moves ever is to get Ryan Sandberg, one of the all-time legendary Cub players, and also Major League Baseball legends. What a player! As a Cardinal fan, it hurts me to even talk about this, but there's the Cardinal Cub rivalry, the Ryan Sandberg game. Everybody knows about it. Bruce Sutter, a ex-Cub, now a Cardinal at the time, and who was shut down. You bring Bruce Sutter in, he shuts the game down, and Ryan Sandberg hit 2 home runs, one to tie it, one to, and one. I'm not sure if he went ahead and we came back, then he put it ahead for good. But I'll never forget that. And that was the day I knew, who is this guy, right? I heard of him, I knew a lot about him, but that day after that, he was a legend. And it's the Ryan Sandberg game. And here's a little statistic for you, Vince. When Ryan retired, he had the second most home runs by a second baseman, only to Roger Hornsby. Hornsby had, at the time, had the most home runs, and Sandberg retired at the number 2 spot. So my number 2 is Ryan Sandberg.
All right, before I say my number one, which we probably have the same person, I had two honorable mentions, and these are two men that made your list. I had Lou Whitaker and Bobby Grish as my honorable mention, so we're kind of right in step there. My number one was played for the Royals, Buddy Biancalana.
Oh, I almost coughed on that one. That's very good.
My number one second baseman. Oh, I had a third honorable mention, Frank White with the Royals, but
Frank White.
my number one, of course, is Joe Morgan, who played from 63 to 84. He had a career WAR of 100.6, which is, as you see on my list, the second place person is Sandberg at 67.9. So Morgan, played a long time and accumulated a lot of WAR. 2,517 hits, 268 home runs. He hit 271. He did steal 689 bases and had a career OPS of 819. Back-to-back MVPs in 75 and 76. He played 10 All-Star games. He got 5 Gold Gloves, 1 Silver Slugger, because Silver Slugger, I don't think
Just was coming out then, maybe.
the year he won it was like the first year they awarded Silver Sluggers. A lot of people argue that Morgan, even though he played a long time, his prime years, there was only about a 5-year window when he was prime, and other than that, he was very average, I guess you could say. His years with the Houston Colt 45s, his years with the Phillies were not tremendously great. It was that time with the Reds. But one thing that Morgan always did, even when he wasn't in his prime in hitting, the home runs that he hit in his prime and the batting average that he had in his prime, is he always had a high on base percentage because he took a ton of walks and he always had the speed to steal the bases. And even though he wasn't the greatest defensive second baseman, he was very good. He won 5 Gold Gloves, and he played his first part of his career in Houston. And he started when they were the Colt 45s before they had the Astrodome. That's how long he was around. He finished his career with the Giants, and in that 83 season, the year before he retired, he almost took them to the playoffs and got MVP votes, and he was like an old man. He was 71 years old then. So,
wow.
But Joe Morgan, I think when you look at his overall body of work, in my mind, he edges out Sandberg simply because Sandberg, this is always going to be a black mark. He left the team in 95 going through a divorce, and he retired, and then he unretired when the divorce was over. I just, as someone who has been through divorce, I never had the luxury of saying, I'm not going to work this year because I'm going through a divorce. Most people have to work, and make a living. Um, but anyway, that kind of, you know, had me push Morgan over Sandberg for number one.
Well, I'll go over my honorable mentions first. I only had two honorable mentions. One was Jose Altuve, and I only didn't put him on there because the amount of time he's played so far, but he'll be on that list. And the other one was Jeff Kent. As far as if you're going to count power and batting average and all that, he's the man. But defensively, he wasn't anywhere near these guys defensively, and he struck out a ton, probably more than these guys. A lot of strikeouts, but man, he hit a lot.
I should have put Kent as an honorable mention, and he was floating around in my mind. Um, and I mean, I should have him as an honorable mention. But the things that he was not a good defensive second baseman.
No,
He was almost like we got to stick him somewhere. Let's put him at second. Now his offense was great. He won an MVP, so on and so forth. The other thing is that I just don't like the guy. Um,
oh, him and
I,
Bonds did not get along. They were teammates.
they're the same personality. Very
They really
selfish.
were.
I don't think Kent ever did anything. I mean, teams couldn't wait to get rid of him. Um, Dusty Baker did good with him, and that's where he won his MVP. But Dusty Baker is a special manager.
Yeah,
He wore out his welcome with the Mets. He wore out his welcome with I think he played with the Dodgers for a while. He wore out his
yeah.
welcome places. So, but yeah, I probably should have put him on as an honorable mention, but I didn't.
He all great offensive player, but between him and Gritch, I went back and forth forever, and it became because of strikeouts, on base percentage, and Gritch had 4 or 5 Gold Gloves, and that's why I went with Bobby Gritch right there. But my number one, as you said, Joe Morgan, and Joe Morgan, I just kind of talk about him as a fan when it was unfair that these Reds had that much talent on one team. Their starting 8 were phenomenal, and Sparky just ran them all out there. The backups, the greatest job in baseball would be to be a bench warmer for the Reds, Cincinnati Reds, because they didn't get to play a whole lot. It was all those 8 guys, and they just carried the load. And when you seen Joe Morgan, he was just one of those players. I mean, Pete Rose, Morgan, Bench, that whole team, but those 3 in particular, and Perez, when he was a part of that Reds team, you can't keep your eyes off those
Foster,
guys.
Griffey Jr. or
Oh
Griffey
yeah, Cesar
Senior.
Geronimo, Dave Concepcion, yeah,
Good.
that whole team. Oh yeah, but Morgan, when he came to bat, he had a hitch where any kid would know if you go up and grab a wiffle ball bat and you go like that. Oh, you're doing Joe Morgan. You're Joe Morgan, and he seemed like for a little guy, he had a great big bat, and he could handle that bat. He put it out there. He ran like he was on fire, ran hard as he could to first base, and that team was just a tough, tough team. And I love Joe Morgan. I like his personality. I also admire him as an announcer. When Sunday Night Baseball came along, you had that old guy. I think he's with the Baltimore Orioles. He's their announcer, Miller,
Yeah,
and
Miller.
Morgan. Yeah, great tandem right there. Miller would tell stories, and Morgan and him would make each other laugh. And Joe Morgan had a second life there as an announcer, was fantastic. So I put Morgan in there, and when Morgan, when let's see, I had a little stat on him. He had he had a year where he had 11.0 WAR, which is the second most by any second baseman for one season. That was 1975, and only the great Rogers Hornsby in 1924 he had a 12.3 WAR. So it was the second greatest WAR of all time. It was that, like you said, that 5-year window where he was just maybe the best player in baseball, one of them at least,
Yeah.
and maybe of our lifetimes the best season of one of a second baseman. So Joe Morgan, me and you agree on almost all those spots right there. You can't be wrong. All the players we mentioned were phenomenal. So that's my 5.
All righty. JJ, I am opening up 1991, uh,
91.
the Leaf set.
Oh yeah, that's Canadian, I believe. Isn't Leaf
And,
a Canadian company?
and I don't know. I
I
don't know
thought so.
baseball cards. The package is so pretty. I don't know if I want to open these up.
Yeah, that's pretty fancy right there.
I'm 33 years old. I don't want to open this up,
Man,
but I'm going to.
that's like a fine wine right there with some cheese.
What are you opening?
Well, I got Series 2 of 2022. And look, I found it for a special low price of $5. They're marking them down, Vince.
Wow.
So, Series 2, 2022.
All right. By the way, this is series one. I'll go ahead and start.
All right.
Uh, there goes that beautiful foil paper.
Oh,
There we go.
very
All
nice.
right. Oh, former outfielder for the Mets. He also played for the Red Sox and the White Sox, amongst other teams, I think. Uh, White Sox. I can't just sit there. Daryl Boston.
Oh, Daryl Boston. Yeah, nice career.
It's probably a mental thing because his last name's Boston. I think he played for the Red Sox. Oh, here's a guy who never drank caffeine, Russ Mormon.
I think he's knocking on my front door right now.
Backup first baseman outfielder for the Royals. Pitcher for the Detroit Tigers, Steve Serchi.
I remember him. I do, yeah.
Oh, here's a guy this when this guy played the outfield, he was probably the most heady player ever, Jose Canseco.
Yeah, off the top of the head. Dated Madonna.
Well, didn't you? I think we all did in the 80s.
Yeah, it's like a lottery thing.
Uh, Infielder for the Angels, Donnie Hill. I don't remember him, but that's a nice looking card.
That name sounds familiar.
Well, this guy he pitched for the Twins. He also pitched for the Cubs for a while. He had a really good career. Mark Guthrie.
Yes. Out there getting some instruction. You don't see them talking like that anymore. They're not covering their mouths. They're out there just talking. That's the old days right there.
Yeah. Oh, and pitcher for the Orioles. I always think of him as a Cleveland Indian who in the 95 World Series completely choked Jose Mesa. Yeah,
Nice career, though. He had a nice career.
Nice career, but a bad World Series. Former Oakland, Baltimore, and Royals pitcher Storm Davis.
Oh, yeah.
Former Cardinal farmhand, catcher Terry Kennedy.
Oh, yeah. San Diego Padre, too.
Yeah, I think he's an all-star one year for the Padres. So yeah, good player. Oh, former catcher for the Indians, Guardians, whatever they're called. When I see the old cards, I want to say Indians. For the Guardians,
Yes.
and also for the Yankees, Joel Skinner,
All right.
brother of Leonard. And this man probably would have had a better career if he wasn't on LSD. Pitcher Dr. Timothy Leary.
He had his 5 minutes of fame.
Ooh, with the Red Sox, Cardinal legend Jack Clark.
Jack the Ripper. Yeah.
Infielder for the Orioles, Juan Bell. I remember that name.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Juan Bell.
Pitcher for the Dodgers. He had a pretty long career. I think he finished with Florida. Dennis Cook.
Okay.
Outfielder for the Astros, Eric Anthony. I always knew him as Eric Tony. So these are terrible. And I got like this Hall of Fame puzzle piece. And this is that's gonna be Harmon Killebrew when there's enough pieces.
Oh, yeah.
That's my package.
All right. Hey. All right. Well, this is 2022, and so some of these players aren't with these teams anymore. The first one I have is Alex Verdugo, and this is him with the Boston Red Sox. Dirty uniform and all, and I like Alex Verdugo. He's a tough player. I wouldn't call him a superstar. He was in that Mookie Betts trade because he was
Yeah.
with the Dodgers and he went over to the Red Sox in that trade. A guy who killed us and a very good, and this guy is a pitcher, Aaron Nola, right there. He really gives the Cardinals a workout. Let's see, a Oakland A. And by the way, the A's have 3 wins this year, and they're in Sacramento. We didn't mention that, and I don't know what's going to happen. 14,000 seating capacity in Sacramento. We'll see what happens. Chris Bassett from the Oakland A's. I hope they keep that color scheme. I like the green and gold right there. From the Washington Nationals, a Cardinal at one time, Lane Thomas, and has had put together a pretty nice couple of years with them.
Yeah, he's one of their top players. I mean, that's
Yeah.
like saying Moe's the brainiest stooge, but he's done pretty good there.
The nicest guy in prison is
Yeah.
Lane Thomas. This guy's had a nice career, been with a lot of teams, but he's a good piece to a good team. AJ Pollock right there.
Yeah.
Very, very good player with the Dodgers, with the Evil Empire. And then there's a card called High Five Highway, where everybody's high fiving each other. And of course, it's the Dodgers right there after they kicked our butts and they're high fiving each other. All right. Oh, this is one of your guys, and you can help me with the pronunciation. He's got a dirty uniform and all. David Bodie.
David Bodie. Yeah.
Yeah, very
Getting
nice. You like?
paid $5 million this year to play in Iowa.
Oh, really? Oh
Yeah.
man.
After his rookie season, he had a good rookie season, is a fifth infielder, had some big hits, had a big home run, a game-winning home run. I think he hit a game-winning grand slam to win 4-3 a game, something like that. He asked for an extension. They extended him 5 years, $15 million. And I think this is the last year of that. And he's making 5 years with the last year. But he spent all last year with Iowa. This year he's with Iowa. He's not even on the 40-man roster, but he's making this. When Max and I went to Des Moines last year, he wasn't even starting. I mean, but he did walk right in front of us. Max waves at him, he waves back. So he had a good spring training, but we just don't have room for him, and no one's going to pick him up with a $5 million salary. So
No, no. That like with the Cardinals, we've mentioned Lane Thomas, very good guy, but we just didn't have room for him. We got Cardinals for some reason have a lot of those Lane Thomas type outfielders that come up. Here's a special card right here, the No Hit Club, and this is Joe Musgrove, and that's his No Hit Club right there.
yeah, I saw that
Very,
game last year.
very good. Cedric Mullen, he's got a special stars of the game, 30-30 guy. He was a player that was a switch hitter and he just went to one side. I believe he's batting right-handed now and he became a 30-30 player. So there you go. I guess you heard of this guy, Otani, right there. He's pitching. Yeah.
No,
No. Oh, another ex-Cardinal. And I know he got with Baltimore, but I think they cut him before the season started. Colton Wong, right
yeah,
there. Hope he lands with somebody. Team cards. We got a Baltimore Oriole team card. That seems to be a thing that happens now. When you win a game, they do a little dance. Yeah, the outfielders get together and do a little dance. And the Texas Rangers celebrating at home plate. There they are. Some good pictures on these cards. This guy here has all the talent in the world, and he seems like he's always hurt. Brian Buxton from the Twins.
yeah. Can't
Right
stand the field.
after this picture was taken, he went on the IR right there. Let's see who else we got here. Oh, you talk about this guy a lot. He's got a future star card, Nick Mandagrill.
Match
Mandagrill?
pro. Yeah,
Yes,
he's
very
having a good
good.
season as our fifth infielder. He's
Okay,
having a good season.
so he's a big part of the team. Catcher from the Cleveland Guardians, Roberto Perez. Very nice catcher. A few more here. Let's see. Oh, Detroit Tiger, Tucker Barnhart. I know he was a Red. No, stay away.
He was a Cub last year. He was terrible.
Oh, him and Jan Gomes was the two catchers, weren't they?
Yeah, and they got. I think we DFA'd him sometime in July. But yeah, that was bad.
You were mentioning Craig Biggio. Here's his son, Kevin Biggio, with Toronto.
There you
Right
go.
there. There he is. And I think he's having a better year. I've seen some
Well, he
numbers on
couldn't
him.
have been any worse than he was last year. It's
I
pretty
know. You got all those kids of big league players, and he was the one. this guy's had a nice career, a long career. Kenley Jansen is a closer.
Yeah, he's
That's a
he's with the Red Sox now, and I just saw him close out a game. I watched the Oakland Boston game earlier this week. And he's closing for Boston. Oh, by the way, gosh, I should have wrote this down. I did I did watch the Oakland broadcast, and they have that play-by-play, the female play-by-play announcer. She's really good.
she's
And
good. Okay.
Dallas Braden, who, if you watch an Oakland game, just watch Dallas Braden. He is great at being an analyst. They have great chemistry together.
That's
So
worth watching it alone right there.
yeah,
Are those guys they sent to the minors for wearing the bracelets? Are they back up now? I think Rooker's back.
Rooker's
Is
back. I don't know if Rooker was ever actually sent down or if he just got
oh,
benched or whatever, but I
okay.
don't think Ruiz is back.
Oh,
At
all
least,
right. Well, they know more about baseball than I do. And the final card in this set here is Washington National. I had a very good career. Patrick Corbin, very
yeah,
good player. Very
good
good player.
player. Mm.
Yeah. So that's it for my cards this week.
I forgot to mention this. After Sunday's game, I'm watching the press conference, the Cubs, and they had Imanaga and his translator out there, and someone asked him about facing Otani, and he struck out Otani.
Oh,
And
hey.
he said that it's the first time I've ever faced him. They said, "Well, what were your thoughts about Otani?" Yamanaga has such a dry, great sense of humor. He said he's very tall. I mean, of course, that in Japanese, and the translator said he's very tall. So,
That is great. You guys love that guy. He's coming. He's popular with your team, isn't he?
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody on the team loves him, and the fans are really falling for him. And he's
Fantastic.
going to come back down to earth a bit. You know, first time around the league. Some of these Japanese pitchers, the first time around the league, really struggle. Like uh, oh, the guy with the Mets last year had a terrible first
Oh
month,
yeah, yeah.
and then from the rest of the year on, he was like Cy
Yeah.
Young quality. Um, or they come on like gangbusters, like Hideo Nomo, and they just kind of like boom because no one's seen them before, and they throw so different. I heard Daisuke Masazaki came up with that gyro ball when he came from Japan, and nobody had really seen much of that before, and he was so good that first year. And then the league, yeah, okay, we've seen
They
him.
adjusted.
So
Yeah.
Imanaga, I don't know, you know how things are going to level off, but I don't think he's given up a run yet in his two starts. So we'll see.
We'll
The
see.
thing that really sucked about the rain delay, he only threw four innings. He was only at like 42 pitches. I mean,
Oh,
he was doing great.
he
So
was on fire.
yeah,
I didn't I saw that the highlights and I didn't know there was a rain delay, but I didn't see hardly anybody in the stands, and I was like, something must have went on or something because it was a lot. There was only like maybe a third of what normally is in the stands. The Cubs always show up for their team,
yeah.
the Cub fans.
The game, they were trying to get the game in because we had to go to San Diego and the Dodgers had to go to Minnesota. So they were trying hard to get the game in. Um, by about the third inning, it's really raining good, and they're having to hold up the game to throw diamond dust down in the middle of the innings and throwing diamond dust down. Well, we scored, I think it was our fifth run in the bottom of the fourth inning, and I can't remember who backup infielder for the Dodgers playing third base had a throwing error. He couldn't grip the ball. I mean, there was so much water on the field, and so after that play, the umpire said, "Get the tarp out." Boy, he gave the umpire an earful, and I didn't blame him because they shouldn't have been playing. They should have put the tarp out about 20 minutes earlier. And I know they're trying to get the game in, and they did after a 3 hour delay get the game in, and everybody got to where they needed to go. But yeah, it was kind of ridiculous. And when it's too much rain for the fans, it's definitely too much rain to play. That's the way I look at it.
That schedule too. Now that they have this across the board schedule, you don't see a team but maybe once.
Yeah,
And you got to get these games in or you're flying in on your off day. And I'm old school. I like where you play your division more and maybe just your league, maybe just a little bit of this American League stuff. But that's the way they have it now. So now you have to do stuff like that to try to get the games in.
Yeah. Well, JJ, I'm going to let you go because the Cub game starts in about 10 minutes.
All right,
So,
good luck. I hope you guys do well. And we got the Phillies. Gonna give them our best. And Sonny Gray is going tonight, so I'm excited to see him in a Cardinal uniform.
what's that old song? Sonny came home.
Oh yeah, I know the song. I know it's '90s music there.
All right. Well, you have a good one.
You too, sir.